All right, everyone, a good morning to you. Time for a first alert forecast update as we settle on in here. It is a Tuesday. It is a toasty one. We got a lot to talk about here, so let's focus on in because just to the point of it being a first alert weather day, yet again, following up a hot one yesterday, we need to continue to keep tabs on all these rising temperatures and how they're going to be impacting you at home and as you go out and about for your travels later. Because it's not just about rising temperatures. It's not going to be a completely dry day. We have the capacity, just like we saw on Monday, to get storms to flare up. And that's going to be a big point of reference here. More of those storm chances that are going to be around this week. Everything has continued to really give us a chance where rain chances will be all around throughout the rest of these days. Going through your weekend plans between what we see right now, it's all going to be something we got to focus on here. So let's continue on with this. I want to make sure you're ready for it. I still want to be continuing to focus on the heat because that's why today is a first alert weather day, but it's all going to be playing a factor into how you can also see some problems out on roads later, or even just trying to take part in outdoor activity later. So we did it all this yesterday. Talked about the heat advisory. It was in place from the National Weather Service. There's two small differences between today's and yesterday's. Today's at 7 p.m. Yesterday's went until 8. But other than that, it is the fact that Fairfield, Newberry, and Saluda counties are not included. But you know what? That's only because, just like yesterday, Saluda, Newberry, and Fairfield, you have a heat index today around 105, 106, which technically doesn't meet the projected criteria of 108 like all the rest of these counties do for the Midlands. So just be thinking about that. Doesn't matter if you're not in the heat advisory. Everyone here in the middle of the state will be cooking across South Carolina. It is going to be a hot day. So I want you to make sure you're preparing for it just like you would normally, just like everyone else should be doing as we go along here, okay? So let's continue with that. Let's also focus on the drought monitor because this has also been a point of reference for the region as we have seen a good deal of a severe drought settling in for a lot of our counties, especially between what we have for a good chunk, I mean, all of Lexington County basically, but into Saluda and Newberry counties as well. A lot of that continues towards our eastern viewing area and some of the worst spots, honestly, Manning very close, some little portions of Clarendon, Sumter, and Lee counties. They're getting into an extreme drought, but this is something into the week that we're trying to see alleviated. Over the course of time, and it's going to take time, we are going to be seeing rain on the uptick, these chances that continue to fill in each day. So let's talk about it. Let's see how that works to change pace throughout the region because we're certainly not getting that rain right now. We are getting a gorgeous morning though, and this is at least something to enjoy right now in the way of travels you got to make, accomplishments you need to get done outdoors for your home or your apartment or balcony, you know, whatever you got going on. This has been a lovely, lovely start to try and get some things done. So it could be a very busy day for you guys, and if it is, you got to be listing up because there will be some problems finding their way back to the region today. Yesterday we heated up really quick. We saw some storms flare for the region, and honestly I was surprised by the amount of severe warnings we got. Yeah, I knew we were going to get a couple storms, but you know that they just reached that strong enough point with some winds and even some small hail that formed. We actually got those severe warnings. So I would anticipate if it happened yesterday, we could see a couple of those again today because we see a very similar setup with all these temperatures rising, feel like temperatures similar. So let's continue to think about that as we go into these projections now. Morning hours still have been beautiful. That's been something so constant, and it usually is in the summer. You don't see much of the activity flare up until the afternoon when you get temperatures and everything with humidity and heat, just it all to combine. It gets to that heating peak of the day, 3, 4 p.m., and that's when we really start to see some of these isolated storms fill in. We'll see it as we go towards the later portion of the day, into the evening. Some of it likely will shift more towards our south and eastern viewing area. Not the worst thing because those have been some of the driest spots. So I'm hopeful that you guys get to start, you know, getting treated by some rain because you need it. You really do. It's been so tough out there for the region, and I really mentioned it a lot on the morning show today because of how big of an agriculture state South Carolina is. You know, it's not a state that we can just be in a drought and we're not going to see, you know, problems. Farmers are not going to be impacted, so that's something that we're really getting through today. So continuing with that sentiment into the afternoon, Wednesday, here we go, looking into tomorrow, looking to see a 50-55% coverage of some of these showers and storms. Some communities will be spared, but a lot of you out there will be getting that storm activity. So keep eyes on the sky. When thunder roars, head indoors. Get out of the way of these storms and make sure you're inside somewhere safe as they flare up. You got to be really careful if you're going to be stuck out on those roads and you see a downpour storm coming your way, or you're trying to drive through it. You need to really be smart and be safe out there, even though things are scattered. Going into future radar, still going to be seeing that for Thursday again, and this is all going to be, if you could almost see a pattern here, and the reason there is a pattern, it's still disorganized, but it's almost a bit of a line that you could draw between areas like Chesterfield, cutting through Columbia, down towards the south a little bit more, everywhere in between. And this is all going to be lining up with a cold front that's passing through the region. So basically, it will continue to see and get lifted up into the atmosphere by this front as we're going a little bit more into this realm of volatility, instability for your afternoon, where storms are going to be liable to pop up. And we get this each day for the rest of this week. The only main difference today, with all that heat that builds, we could see some higher cloud tops. And if, of course, you're really in tune to your first alert forecast situations, or just a little bit knowledgeable about weather, on hotter days like this, you're going to get very high cloud tops. And those are the types of storms that produce big bolts of lightning, your really, really big booms. Because what happens inside of a thunderstorm is when you have more of that space for super cooled water droplets to basically bump into each other at very high levels of the atmosphere, that's when you're going to be getting those really big lightning strikes, because they're coming down from just really high up there in the atmosphere. It's a fascinating process. It's really cool to see on a graphic. I wish we had a little bit more of those 3D ones. Hopefully we can maybe invest in those at some point, because it's just really cool to see and educate on things like that. But that's, of course, a big point of reference. A lot of heat, when storms form, that's when, of course, you get your biggest lightning strikes, when you have a lot of heat giving those storms upward forcing. Now, going later into this week, we can still see some good strikes of lightning, your thunderstorms in general, but you're not going to be getting as aggressive ones. At least we shouldn't be. Once we start to see that cold front move through, after it's settled through the state a little bit, that will be dropping back some temperatures for us. Into your weekend, we see 80s as opposed to 90s. I'm hoping that pans out, because we need a little break from this heat, and the region needs more relief from that rain. So as we go through that, you can always continue to stay first alerted with us for all of your weather needs, whether it's going to be on television or, of course, on the go. Having that WIS First Alert Weather app, a great thing to have. And as we just talked about our website straight up as well, you can always find plenty of great weather information and updated news stories as well. WISTV.com. And if you'd prefer just to take a check of some things on our live stream this morning for a new sense, that will be coming up at 9 o'clock this morning. And that is What's New this morning, once more on this live stream in just a little bit, if you stick around or want to check back in a moment. I'm WIS First Alert Meteorologist Tony Chiavaroli. Make it a terrific but toasty Tuesday.